And that is interesting to see, since that is the very first form of life. Since then, some 300 years ago, when all that happened. And that alone tells us how dry Lanzarote is, that in those 300 years, that is, so to say, the only vegetation that's been growing in this area. See the many lichens topping the stones. So now, see on your left-hand side, see that small volcano. And just past behind it, we'll be seeing the lines and forms of that building designed and created by Mr. Cesar Manrique. That is that Restaurante El Diablo, the Devil's Restaurant we're going to. One of those buildings by Manrique, original. See, built and designed in a way that it is like part of the landscape. The design of it, it's like it follows the lines of the mountain. Built in any case with those black porous lava stones, so abundant in the area. And that is where we're going to. On reaching the parking lot up there, we'll get off the coach and you'll follow me down the hill to reach a red sand area where we'll be demonstrating to you about those high temperatures coming up from the depth of the planet still. Geologists tell us that they say to a great depth, probably 2,000 meters, 3 kilometers, 2-3 kilometers down, there is existing a mass of volcanic magma, like a small volcanic chamber, magmatic chamber, which is a rest of the eruptions occurred in this area. And know that the normal regular temperature of magma inside the planet is always of 1150 degrees centigrade. Those degrees coming up through the earth layers and lava layers, through natural formations that act like chimneys. Those temperatures show right up here at different places. And that is what we're going to demonstrate to you, that there are those high temperatures coming up at distinct places. In the pocket, right away. At 1.50 meters down inside that hole, the temperature is of 300 centigrade. See, we are speaking about temperature, no flame, no fire at all at this moment. Nothing. Bring it, bring it. Abracadabra.
Why is he moved away?
Meters, 250 degrees Celsius, 250, 225. And that is the heat that we use to cook potatoes, sweet potatoes, those two very big things, they are sweet potatoes. Later, it will be possible to see over there the chicken, potatoes, sausages, fish, etc.
The island of Lanzarote, which extends over an area of 807 square kilometers, is of volcanic origin. This island rose from the ocean some 25 million years ago as a result of the accumulation of material from repeated eruptions. The area of Timanfaya National Park we are now visiting, within the confines of the Faya Mountains, is located in the southeast of the island and comprises but a small part of the 172 square kilometers covered by volcanic debris during the eruptions of the 18th and 19th centuries. Between 1726 and 1730, frequent earthquakes and loud underground rumblings caused panic among the population of the interior, who fled, seeking refuge in Teguisa and Arrecife. The eruption took place towards the end of the summer of 1730, on the evening of the 1st of September. The events that then occurred were recorded in the manuscripts of an exceptional witness, the priest of Yaitse, Don Andres Lorenzo Corbello, who wrote, "Between 9 and 10 o'clock in the evening, the earth suddenly opened near Timanfaya, 2 leagues from Yaitse. During the first night, an enormous mountain arose out of the heart of the earth. The flames, which came out of its apex, went on burning for 19 days. This signaled the beginning of the most important period of volcanic activity in the history of the Canary Islands. It lasted for 6 years, with phases of varying intensity, during which streams of molten lava registering 800 degrees centigrade and enormous showers of ashes destroyed every last vestige of life. Wide rivers of molten lava flowed through fractures which opened at the base of many of the volcanoes which originated during the eruptions. The Virgin's Mantle is the most emblematic hornito, or small oven, in the Faya Mountains. These structures form when the accumulation of gases in the tunnel interiors, through which the lava flows, is such that they fracture the roof, causing the emission of incandescent materials and gases under great pressure. The Timanfaya eruptions belong to the fissure category, which means an enormous fissure several kilometers long opens up, allowing vast amounts of lava to emerge in the form of molten streams. This lava fills up depressions in the ground, leveling out the terrain to leave an almost horizontal surface. Cones form from the accumulation of volcanic material around emission areas. Lava flows dominate the landscape, despite the sight of large amounts of cones and numerous eruption exits. An endless amount of lava tongues sprouts from craters which join up, intermingling with each other to form an immense sea of lava which occupies an entire quarter of the central part of the island. The lava flows stretch all the way from the volcanoes to the distant coastline, reaching up to 20 kilometers in length at certain points. Upon entering the sea, they caused gigantic columns of vapor to rise, the lava mass forcing the waters to recede, thus considerably increasing the surface area of Lanzarote. Whenever people believed that the fires in the volcanoes were dying out, new fissures opened up and the eruptions regained their former intensity. This was recorded by the priest of Yaitse as follows. On the 18th of October 1730, 3 new openings formed on top of Santa Catalina and from other outlets, from which thick smoke emerges and spreads over the entire island. At the same time, huge quantities of lava and ash are being scattered over the surrounding countryside. The explosions that followed this phenomenon, together with the intense darkness produced by masses of ashes and smoke covering the whole island, caused the inhabitants of Yaitse to take flight several times. The lava streams and showers of volcanic grains totally destroyed around 30 hamlets, besides causing serious damage to another 20 small villages. Large areas under cultivation were also destroyed, together with crops, barns, water catchments, pasture lands and livestock. Inhabitants of the affected area were gradually losing hope until they finally left, moving to other parts of the island or even further afield. It is estimated that almost half of the population of Lanzarote had emigrated only 5 months after the eruptions began. At one stage it was even suggested that the entire island be evacuated. This part of the island, which consisted of small, isolated and thinly populated hamlets extending over the entire region, suffered complete devastation. Their names were Tingafa, Mancha Blanca, Santa Catalina, Peña Palomas, Maretas, San Juan, Jaretas, Timanfaya, Testina, Rodeo and Mazo. Now, almost 3 centuries later, life pulsates in the midst of the seas of lava and continues to expand. More than 800 species of animal life and plants have been noted within its confines, mostly terrestrial, but some in the sea. Organisms that live directly on the rocks are birds, lizards, and above all, various species of lichens, besides some unusual nocturnal insects that feed on microscopic particles carried by the wind. These are principally beetles and crickets, which may be similar to the pioneer creatures which made their home on the island when Lanzarote emerged from the sea millions of years ago. The largest known form of animal life is the gire vulture, which feeds on carrion and nests in the craters of the volcanoes of the Fire Mountains. The smallest is a tiny cave-dwelling insect measuring less than 1 millimeter in length. Very fluid lava flows poured from the cones of the volcanoes, which spread out till reaching the coast. Some of the immense streams of molten lava flowed through subterranean channels, allowing us to see the red and black colors of the lava. Petrified stalactites and stalagmites stand as mute witnesses to the burning flows of lava. The landscape of Timanfaya gives the impression of a desert, where aridity and temperature fluctuations of 20 degrees between day and night would make it almost impossible for animal life to exist. All one sees are small succulent plants or thorn bushes in the Valley of Tranquility landscape, where time seems to have stood still under the pressure of the intense heat. Volcanic grains are the most predominant of all materials emitted during the eruptions, whose texture contrasts with that of the magma seen in the Sea of Lava. Only a minimum of plant life takes root in these areas, where even lichens are very rare. The volcanoes which form Timanfaya National Park were formed during powerful eruptions of basaltic magma. In some ways, they resemble those of Hawaii. This category of volcano emits huge amounts of lava whilst projecting moderate amounts of grains several hundred meters into the air. These grains are carried by the wind and deposited around the areas of their emission. Located at the base of the Macizo del Fuego is a laboratory which registers volcanic movement in Timanfaya. Seismic activity is monitored round the clock in this observatory, as well as deformation of the surface and thermal and gas emissions. During the ascent of Macizo del Fuego, we can clearly see the fissural characteristics of the eruption, as all central emission points are aligned along one single fault. When the eruptions finally ceased, the projected materials cooled down, but emissions of gas continued for a long period of time. This caused differing phenomena to the outer appearance of emitted materials. resulting in the great kaleidoscope of colors we are now able to observe. Macezo del Fuego, at which we now find ourselves, was the epicenter of the eruptions and is 525 meters high at its summit. This volcano was covered with slag and ashes from the 18th century eruptions, but at its crest one notices that the surface of the older section is not completely covered up by the more recent lava. Such areas are known as islotes, islets, and are home to much plant and animal life which survived the volcanic catastrophe, gradually expanding into the newly created substratas with the true eagerness of the colonizer. This complex structure was created after emissions shot out from dozens of different openings along its length. Eruptive fissures opened at the base of the volcanic massif, through which numerous streams of molten lava flowed. From the epicenter of the fault, volcanoes of great sculptured beauty extend eastwards and westwards, such as the Corazoncillo, considered one of the most spectacular examples of the entire Timanfaya area. As we see, it consists of a ring-shaped cone with a single central crater more than 500 meters in diameter and 170 meters in depth. The floor of the crater is 100 meters deeper than the external base of the structure. The solitude and tranquility of these chaotic mountains, imposing craters and deep calderas, is absolute by day. No sign of life, except for lichens blanketing the rocks, whose coloring enhances the black lava. This changes at night when millions of insects scramble among the rocks, hunting for food in the form of organic matter transported by the wind. As there is no earth, there is practically no plant life, except in a few isolated spots where yellow dust has accumulated as a result of dust storms in the distant Sahara. These occasionally cloud the atmosphere above Timanfaya, showering particles on the ground, creating a layer of dust of up to 2 kilos a square meter. The last eruptions on Lanzarote took place in 1824, following a preparatory period of 10 years, during which numerous earthquakes of medium intensity took place. This eruption commenced close to Hilario's Isle, Volcán Nuevo del Fuego or Chinero, and spread along an eruption fissure parallel to that of Timanfaya, its lava streaming out above the layers of those of the 18th century. The principal characteristic of this eruption was the immense fluidity of its lavas, and in particular, the jets of boiling hot, salty water, which were projected from the craters for several days in the form of enormous geysers reaching heights of 30 meters. Several cavities known as Devil's Chasms remain in one of the craters, through which scientists have descended to a depth of several hundred meters, at which point the opening becomes too narrow and the heat too intense to continue any further. At the end of our excursion, we arrive at the islote of Hilario, from which emanations of enormous heat emerge. It is named for a hermit called Hilario, who frequented this islet for 50 years, with only a camel to keep him company. According to legend, Hilario planted a fig tree at this spot, which, although taking root, never bore fruit, as the flower could not blossom due to the intense heat of the flames.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this was then the volcanic drive, or we say in Spanish, Ruta de los Volcanes, and the skillful driving of Xavi, our driver, a fabulous driver. Applause, a whole lot of applause for him. Xavi, yes. And now we go back on this very same road, this time as to passing by that camel station we know of, to get down to the plains of Timanfaya, to that village of Uga.
To też krótko, nie?
Sí, me sentí unos reales.
I nunca te doy.